Talk show. We've been talking to people from all over the world today about their books. Our first guest today was from Latvia. Our next guest, I think, might be somewhere in Southern California. I could tell from her accent. Sarah Maury Swan. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Oddly that you should say California, because for minus 10 days, the first 6 years of life, I lived in California, in Los Angeles. But most of my life I've spent in Maryland.
Maryland, that's where you are now?
No, we're in North Carolina
North
now.
Carolina, oh my goodness.
This is where we retired to.
By the way, I have your book cover on the screen, Earthquakes. Now, this isn't your first book, is it?
No.
Maybe your 10th or 8th?
No, that's my goal, is to get to 10 books before I kick off. But no, I have published 3 children's books, 2 young adult and 1 middle grade. Okay. And my 4th book is a collection of short stories.
Nice. That's a lot of books. Tell us about earthquakes. That's kind of a California term we use out here a lot.
Yeah. As I said, I was born in 1941, and we moved down in the middle of June from Fort Lewis, Washington. Mm-hmm. My father was in the Army. And that's Pandy behind me, by the way. And my mother got a job at Lockheed, being a Rosie the Riveter. And if your people don't know who Rosie the Riveter was, check it out. It's a very important piece of American history.
Yes.
So anyway, from the time we left Los Angeles when I was 6 and moved to Maryland until I was a senior in high school, I used to have nightmares about the earthquakes that we had in California. So that's why I named it that.
And you experienced some of those earthquakes, I guess.
Yes, indeedy.
Yeah. And I don't think I've ever felt an earthquake, and I'm in California. And
lucky you.
How does the book? When I saw the cover of the book, I said, "Is this the book with the handsome man on the cover? Who is that? Is that one of the characters?" And tell us a little bit about the book.
Yeah, it was just a generic face to put on the cover, but yeah, the main character was a 17-year-old boy named Jonathan Thomas, and he's gets nightmares about earthquakes because and this had happened to us in the house. There's a huge earthquake, and he's a little kid, and he goes outside with his dad, and the sidewalk has cracked open, and the tree, that huge oak tree, has gone sideways from that, and that's enough to scare any kid. So, and then there's the bit about that in the book there's spies and murder and a little romance. So there are all these connections to earthquakes one way or the other.
Is this a period book? What period is it set in?
Yeah, it takes place in September 1942.
So your era. Mm-hmm. The era where you were in California.
Yeah, yeah.
And fascinating. Now, I have your web address on the screen, by the way. What would our viewers find if they visited your website?
They can connect with me. I'm more than happy to chat back and forth on through emails on from my website. You can also order my books through there. And I try to keep my blog that I do current on
nice.
On my website also.
That's good. Yeah, whenever I can order a book directly from the author, I sure try to do that.
Yeah.
Feel like maybe they get a little more money out of it. It costs me the same usually, so why not? Now the book, let's get back to the book. Here's the cover again for our viewers. So it's a period piece set in the 40s, and what would you call the genre? Is it a spy, or is it a romance? What goes on there?
I think it would be called a young adult thriller.
Okay. I like that,
My first book is also a young adult thriller.
And you said Earthquake, the young man is about 17 years old. And so it probably will really relate to that age group. Hopefully boys and girls will read this book.
Yeah.
And we all have these fears, and I guess this kind of shows that he has a fear. And
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything, but I can only imagine what happens throughout the book. Now, your other books, there's one other young adult book. What is that one?
That's called Terror's Identity, and I wrote that one after 9/11 because people were immediately saying, well, if you're Muslim, you're evil.
Right.
Well, that's not true.
No.
So I wanted to make that point. And the main character of that one is named Aidan, but except he has to, very early on, he has to go into witness protection. So he ends up having to change his whole name, his whole life. He goes from a very upscale area, and that's a funny story in itself. I had him coming from Lake Forest, Illinois, which is just above Chicago, and is the cat's meow as far as fancy. And he goes then from there to Dundalk, Maryland, which was the final home for Bethlehem Steel. So it's very blue collar. And I wanted him, because I wanted to have him have really shocking changes.
Yeah.
I was on a horse farm when I wrote that book up in Maryland, and I called the Chamber of Commerce in Lake Forest and explained to them where I was, what I was doing, and why I needed the information. And I wanted to know if any of the lots that backed onto Lake Michigan, you could tether a boat, moor a boat behind, because most of it's very cliffy.
Yeah.
And there are a few places. And so I explained all this, and this really hoity-toity person at the Chamber of Commerce said, I can't possibly tell you that information. And I said, listen, lady, I'm not coming there to steal anything. I just want to know if I can put a boat there. So, oh, yes, well, yes, there are a few lots. So that made a change. Anyway.
Interesting. Well, interesting. You do that. You do a lot of research for these books.
Oh, you have to.
You have to do that. Yeah. Now, what's next, Sarah?
I'm writing another young adult novel, and this one's called Bad Hair Day. And the main character is a 17-year-old girl who is ever so fond of herself. And she's very upset when the book starts because she's wanted to wear her white dress or her white skirt to school, and she starts her period.
Boy.
Yeah. So she's feeling very sorry for herself. In the meantime, her brother gets into trouble, and they have to go again away from town. They go down to stay with their cousins in North Carolina. And the point of the story is that Aisha discovers she's never had a bad hair day.
Oh, boy.
She goes to see her cousin, who's her age, and her cousin has had to shoot her favorite cow because the cow is bleeding to death.
Yeah.
You know, that's a bad hair day.
Yes. Now, Sarah, we're out of time, but I wanted to ask you a question about your process. Do you sit down at the computer every day and start typing? Are you disciplined, or do you just do it when you feel like it?
I try to do it every day. My brain works as such as that the story begins working in my head. Yeah. And then I go and type it down on my computer, and then I send it to my critique groups and have them rip it apart, and then I get better.
That's great. We're way out of time, Sarah. Any last thoughts you want to tell our viewers?
No, if you want to write, just go ahead and write, because it's always going to be awful the first time around, no matter who you are. And just keep working at it, and it'll get better.
Thank you for that message, Sarah, and thanks for telling us about your process. I want to talk to you again sometime, maybe when the next book comes out, or anytime you want to come on. I'd love to have you.
Okay, thanks. Nice to meet you.
All righty,
hug
Sarah.
Your children for me.
I will. And by the way, all my kids moved to New York City, and so Anyway, Sarah, thank you so much for your time, and we'll be back with more Briggs on Books right after this.
Thank you.
All right, Sarah, thank you. See, talk to you next time.
All righty. Bye.
Bye now. Hi, Claudette.
Hello.
Hi, Claudette. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you okay.
I'm so sorry. Our last guest was 82, and she was just having trouble connecting to the Zoom.
Oh, I've been there.
Okay, so sorry to keep you hanging like that, but thank you for doing that. Well, I'm just waiting for your video to pop up.
Okay.
Do you know how to turn that on?
I should have everything already set. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, start video. I didn't have it. Okay.
Are you 82 also? Just kidding. Just kidding.
No, I'm 67.
Ah, we're about the same age.
Okay.
Young. We are young. Okay, Children's of the Plains Estate. All right. We're almost there.
Okay.
Just do a little more setup and we'll be ready to roll.